Hello and welcome to a new edition of Dana Lynette. I am Dana Lynette and I'm so glad you're here. Now, today is a testimony time video and I am going to share with you my testimony about getting into law school and passing the bar exam despite my major issues, apparently, with standardized test taking. You don't want to miss this.
Yeah, we serve God around these parts. Alpha and Omega, he be finished before we start. The great I am, the one who let us know who we are. Christ the cardiologist created me a clean heart.
Alright, so I have my little mug here so that I can pretend like I'm sipping tea when the story gets juicy. There's nothing in it. But listen, at the end of this video, I'm going to share a few fun facts about law school, and you can consider that me dishing the tea, okay? So anyway, let's dive into this. All right, so this is not a recent testimony. This is a testimony from the past. I finished law school in 2014, passed the bar in 2017, but I wanted to share my story because there is someone out there. There are somebodies out there who will draw encouragement from my story because you likewise might face some of the same challenges. And so with my journey to and through law school, let's just say the journey through law school could be like a saga. It could be like a series of videos. But in this video, what I'm going to talk about is the fact that I've never been a very good standardized test taker and therefore had challenges with all of the standardized tests involved with getting into law school, getting through law school, and of course the bar exam afterward. There's a scripture in the Bible, Luke 1:37. It says, "For with God nothing shall be impossible." And other areas in the Gospels, it says, with God all things are possible. And then back in the book of Isaiah somewhere, God challenged the prophet and he said, "Is my arm short that it can't save, that it can't deliver? Is there anything too hard for me?" And so be encouraged today by my story. All right, so I don't want this to be a 90-minute video, so let me get started. I got my little notes here. So like I said, let me tell you about me and standardized tests. I am not a dummy and neither are you. However, I have, excuse me, I've never really scored very high on standardized tests. When you go back to high school and you think of the ACT test and the SAT, I don't really remember my SAT score, but my ACT composite was a 19. And because of that, when I went to college, I was accepted, but I had to take zero level courses, remedial courses. So I had to take 099 math, and I had to take 089 and 099 English, I believe, based on my ACT composite. And so the thing about that is, it's not that I didn't know the materials that they were testing in math and English. I just didn't test well, and there's a lot of research out there about that. Some people just are not very good standardized test taker. I have been one of those people. Don't plan on taking any more standardized tests, but we'll see what the Lord has in store. So, so check it out. When I got to college, I attended Kentucky State University in Frankfort, Kentucky. Beautiful campus, beautiful college, beautiful people. I was in a math class where they were teaching how to find the least common denominator. And I was like, what? Wait a minute. Are we really doing this? This is college. Why am I? Wait, no. So I marched my little self down to the testing center. And I was like, okay, in that math class, they are teaching least common denominators. I am not sitting through this a whole semester, wasting my time and my money. Can I please test out of this course? And they were like, oh, you want to test out? Sure. So they scheduled a test day, and I showed up at the testing center with my little sharpened pencil, with my little new eraser on it, ready to get myself up out this remedial math course that I don't belong in, right? Sips tea. Pretend. There's nothing in it. So you can imagine my dismay when the test scores came back and they were like, oh, no, your test score says you belong in that class. Because I knew the information. And so, yeah, I stayed in that class all semester because I couldn't test out. I don't know what my issue has been where standardized tests are concerned, but so that's one example. So with law school, everybody knows that if you want to go to law school, you need to prepare yourself for the LSAT, the Law School Admissions Test, I assume is what it stands for. I've always called it the LSAT. Now, depending on the score that you need to get, depends on the college that you want to go to. And actually, you should always get the highest score that you can possibly get. Aim for the highest score you can possibly get, because there's most often, a lot of money tied to that score. If you get an excellent score, you get an excellent scholarship. So I applied for schools in Kentucky. I had made Kentucky my home, Central Kentucky my home. I did not want to relocate for law school. That is not something I was willing to do, nor an expense that I was willing to incur. And so there are 3 law schools in Kentucky. There's one in Northern Kentucky, there's one in Louisville, and there's one in Lexington. I applied to the one in Lexington and Louisville, and I was accepted into both. But before getting accepted, I took the LSAT, and I got a score that I knew they would look at, and they would question how good of a candidate I would be. And so I decided not to apply at that time, and I said I will apply after I take the test again. The school in Lexington, at the time that I applied, I think that the score that they generally looked for was a 150 minimum, I believe, and you had to have some pretty compelling factors to consider to get accepted if your test score was lower than that. The other school, I don't really remember, the one in Louisville, but I think it was slightly less than that. But anyway, I won't tell you what my score was, but I didn't think I would be taken seriously, so I took it again. Now, mind you, Kaplan and some other places have test prep courses that you can buy. They're usually a little over $1,000, maybe in the ballpark of $1,300 back in the day. I don't know what they cost now, but I was poor. I didn't have any money, so I couldn't take a prep course. And so I marched myself down to the library and I checked out Kaplan's test prep materials and began to study on my own. And even having done that, I still got that low initial score. Unfortunately, I still didn't have any money to pay for a course, and so I just continued with the practice test from the materials that I had checked out from the library for Kaplan. So after practicing, I scheduled to take the test again, and I got a higher score. I think I raised my score by 3 points, but it was still below the 150 threshold that the school in Lexington required. And so at that point, I knew that it costs money to take this test. I'm not going to keep paying to take this test. But what I did do was I wrote a darn good personal statement, and I wrote an addendum explaining why they should accept me into the law school. And I asked that they look at me as an applicant as a whole. I already had a master's degree. I already had several years of professional experience. I didn't come straight out of undergrad or out of grad school. I had, professional experience under my belt. I had gone overseas and helped start a school in another country and taught in that school for 3 years, and that school had gained the reputation of being the best school on the island. And a plethora of other things. And so I just laid out, this is who I am and this is why you should accept me. Please consider the whole picture and not just the test score, because historically I've not tested well. Well, I was very pleased to find out that both schools accepted me and offered me scholarships. But I ended up choosing the school in Lexington. Here's the thing. Getting into law school is one thing, but there are a couple of other major standardized tests that you need to consider. Looking at my notes here. So I took the LSAT twice, I told you that, and I was accepted because they considered me as a whole. But there's also an exam called the MPRE, and that's your ethics exam. Now, depending on the school that you go to, they have different rules. Some schools, you can't graduate without first passing the MPRE. It's not a terribly difficult course, but it is a standardized test, and it's important that you pass. You do take an ethics course, and usually after the ethics course, you know the material, you should do well in the MPRE. I think in all places, I could be wrong about that, you are required to pass the MPRE before taking the bar exam. And so this is not something that you can get around. It's another standardized test that you have to pass. So I took the MPRE, was it my second year? I think I took it my third year. Anyway, I took it in a time frame where I only had 2 opportunities to pass before being finished with law school. So the first time that I took it, I did not pass it. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, another poor performance on a standardized test. Although, listen, I'm brilliant. Okay, I'm a very smart person. Like I said, that not having a good test score on a standardized test is not a reflection of your intelligence, your value, or your worth. So please understand that. So anyway, I studied some more, and I took the ethics exam, the MPRE again, and I passed the second time. So that's twice for the LSAT and twice for the ethics exam. And now the major standardized test, the one that we all know and love, the bar exam. Okay, so depending on what state you're in, the bar exam may have 2 or 3 components. In the state of Kentucky, where I am, we have 2 components. You have the essay portion, which tests state material only, and then you have the MBE, the multi-state bar exam, which is the 200 question multiple choice test. Now, I thought, based on my performance in law school, that when I go into the bar exam, I'm going to do well on the multiple choice. I don't know how I persuaded myself that would be the case, but that I would do poorly on the essays. And boy, was I wrong. So I go in after completing all my courses and graduating. It's time to take the bar exam. I did take a prep course, by the way. I had enough cash saved up or whatever. I believed God for it, something. And I had enough money to take, I took Barbary. And when I went in to take the bar exam the first time, I got my scores back, and I had passed the essay exams, and I failed the multiple choice by 7 points. You can imagine how devastating that was. And so I studied up, and I took it the very next opportunity. It's always offered in February and July. So I think the first time I took it in February, and the second time I took it in July. So when I went in the second time, I didn't have to take the essay anymore. I only had to take the portion I failed, which was the multiple choice. What happened, Dana? I failed by 1 point, a single point. I was very disappointed. Now, mind you, every time I take this test, cha-ching, cha-ching, this is an expensive test, okay? You can't afford to keep failing it. And so, so that was twice now that I failed the MBE. But my essays were still good, and so I still didn't have to take those. So I took a break. I did not take it in February, but I took it again that following July. Third time's the charm, right? Wrong. I failed again 3 times. That made the third time that I failed the multi-state bar exam. Now, I wasn't even persuaded that I wanted to practice law at that time. So now I'm starting to really look at this discouragement, or look through the eyes of discouragement, and see whether or not I want to keep paying to take and fail this test. You know, but as a Christian, I had to stir myself up in faith that there's nothing impossible with God. Bless God if I could get through a low ACT score, and I could get through a low LSAT score, and I could get through the MPRE, then this, you know, bar exam is not going to be a bar to prevent me from crossing the finish line. I didn't know if I would practice law, but it didn't matter whether I wanted to practice law. If I didn't, I wanted to be because I chose not to, not because I couldn't get through this exam. After everything that I went through, law school, listen, that will be a whole nother series. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to know about my journey through law school. But I said, there is no way I'm going through all of that and have this one measly standardized test prevent me from having all of the open doors that I should have. So a fourth time, I don't remember, I think I took another break, and I found out that one of the areas that I was weakest and didn't realize was in the law of evidence, in particular the hearsay rule. And so I found a really good teaching on that. I think it was someone out of Regent who had it, and I studied and studied. I'll put the link to that in the description bar. It was an excellent video. I studied that until I felt like I knew that stuff so well I could teach it. And so I went and showed up for the fourth time to take the test, and after the fourth time I actually passed, and thank God, I was so excited. And so in 2017 I was sworn in October. Not a reflection of how well I do in all of my internships, externships, and practice courses. My performance has never been lacking. It has been very good. My legal research, my drafting, it's always been very good. But like I say, some people just don't test well, and that's okay. So listen, if I can do it, you can do it. You are not a dummy, and there is nothing too hard for God. If you know him, trust him, and if you don't know him, get to know him. Okay, he can help you. The Bible says, let the weak say I'm strong. So if you're weak in an area like standardized testing, it's not insurmountable. Okay, and so when you're facing that, don't succumb to the temptation to be discouraged or to see yourself as a failure in any way. It doesn't matter that you pass on the first time. What matters is that you pass, and I passed. So today I am a licensed attorney. I haven't practiced much, but we'll see what the future holds. But the point of this video is to encourage someone today. Don't worry about standardized test issues, being poor, being from an underprivileged background. I fit that whole script. Or even about people not wanting you there. That doesn't matter either. If there's an open door that God has made for you, honey, walk through that door and get yours. All right, and so now we gonna talk about the tea. So I have a couple fun facts. I have a couple fun facts regarding my law school experience. Like to hear it? Here it go. So in law school, because the bell curve, they grade on a curve. Your grade depends on someone else's grade. How well you do depends on how well, the whole class as an average, and then the professor puts them all on a, average is everything out and keeps and then assigns grades. And so it can be very subjective, the grading process in law school. So most law schools have a grading system that is anonymous. They put in protections so that both students can be protected and professors can be protected from accusations that maybe this professor doesn't like someone and therefore has assigned an inappropriate grade to that person, or whatever. You can imagine the drama there with a subjective grading system. And so most law schools have an anonymous system where students are assigned exam numbers. And so when you take your exam, your name doesn't appear anywhere on the exam, only your exam number. Well, in my law school, everyone had a 3-digit exam number, except me. My exam number was 1 digit, unless you count the 2 zeros that were in front of it. When I figured this out, I was just like, okay, what? Wait, why? Dana, did you go and talk to the dean? Did you go and talk to... No, I didn't talk to anyone. I mean, who wouldn't notice that? Like, how could you not notice that you were assigning a 1-digit number to someone? So, and to make matters worse, there was like practically no protection there with a 1-digit number. And I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just saying this is very interesting. It's very interesting, right? I'm just saying, you for the most part, most of the professors that you have in your first semester, you have in your second semester. So law students often have questions about their exams, and especially in the first semester, you want to know, what can I do better? You go and meet with your law professor. You guys look at the exam together, and they talk you through what some of the issues were, how you missed points, or whatever. but you have to, you know, tell them your number. And so I remember sitting with my contracts professor going over my exam during my second semester one day, and he says, let's say my number was 2. It wasn't, but let's just say 2. You know it's going to be 1 through 9. It's one of those. But let's say my number was 2. He said 2. That's pretty easy to remember. I just sat there thinking to myself, I know, right? But what can I do? What would I do? You know? And so I thought that was very interesting. How does everyone have a 3-digit number except me? Just saying. If that happens to you, y'all need to speak up. Go talk to somebody. Raise Cain. And so I just thought that was tea-worthy. And then the other fun fact about my law school experience, during my second year of law school, about 3 weeks, I think it was the second semester, about 3 weeks before exams, my Dell laptop was stolen from the law school library. Now, prior to that, there had been a series of thefts. One of my classmates, her laptop, I think she had an Apple laptop, had been stolen from the law library as well. The library was so packed. We were coming up on exams. It was so packed on the day that my laptop was stolen. When I got up and walked away from my stuff to go talk to one of my professors who has an office in the library, I didn't think I needed to watch my stuff. I was going to be 5 minutes or less, and this library is too crowded. Do you know I go back to that table and my laptop was gone? I did not, my heart, oh my gosh, all my notes, all my outlines, my everything was on that computer. And law school, listen, Lord, it's by the grace of God that I did not fail. It's by the grace of God. I was never, you know, I had those low standardized tests, but I was never on academic probation. Now, I didn't have a great GPA. I worked through law school. You know, having the greatest grades finishing was my priority. So, you know, I didn't borrow money for law school. I worked my way through law school. So, you know, when you divide your time like that, you kind of sacrifice grades, and that's okay because then you don't have all that debt. But anyway, yeah, sure enough. So a friend of mine sent me some of her outline for a course that we had together, and I had another classmate try and share something with me, but it's different when it's not your stuff. You didn't develop it. You don't know the shorthand. But by the grace of God, I got through that semester. I did get a bad grade in one class. But again, I was never on academic probation. Another thing, show you I'm no dummy, the law school would do these tests. They would test every first year class to see people's writing levels. Do you know where the comma goes? Do you know grammar, rules of grammar? And so when they did those tests, there were workshops full of people who had to take those because they didn't perform well on those tests. I think that was a standardized test, but it wasn't like a real standardized test. It was like somebody made this up with a bunch of circles and submitted it. But I had taught remedial English and remedial remedial reading and writing courses on a college level in the past as an adjunct and as a seminar leader. And so I was very fresh on all the rules. And so I never had to take those grammar workshops. And so again, your standardized tests are not a reflection of your intelligence per se. So I hope this video has encouraged someone. That is a wasp, a big one. I hope this video has encouraged someone today. If you have questions, if you want to do a Q&A, leave the questions below. If you just want me to do a video about any particulars in my law school experience, feel free to leave that below. Anything about my career experience in general, leave your questions. I'm happy to answer them. But if you know someone who seems like the atypical candidate for law school, that was definitely me, send this video to them, and I hope it helps them. Nothing is impossible with God. I know this video was long and chatty, but listen, I gave you a little bit of tea. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next testimony time video. Bye.